Gen Z is the most educated generation in history, yet millions feel poorer than their parents ever did. Here's the contradiction nobody talks about. A 25-year-old today often earns more than their parents did at the same age, but that same 25-year-old has almost no realistic chance of buying the house their parents bought at 24. And by the end of this video, you'll understand the 3 hidden reasons why one of them is actually completely fixable, starting today. Because the answer isn't coffee. It isn't Netflix. It's something much deeper. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Meet Sarah. She's 25 years old, makes $58,000 a year, no credit card debt, no wild spending habits. She packs lunch 3 days a week, splits rent with a roommate, and still checks her bank account at the end of the month, wondering where everything went. She's not irresponsible. She's not lazy. She's doing almost everything right, and she still feels like she's drowning. If that sounds familiar, keep watching. Because Sarah's story isn't about bad choices. It's about a system that quietly changed the rules while everyone was busy following the old ones. Here's the first brutal fact. In 1985, the average home in the United States cost roughly 3.5 times the average annual income. Simple math. Earn $30,000, buy a $105,000 house, stretch for a few years, get in. Today, that ratio has nearly doubled. In many cities, home prices have risen faster in the last 5 years than a young worker could realistically save in 10. Imagine doing everything right, saving every month, skipping vacations, cutting subscriptions, then discovering that the house you were saving for quietly got $80,000 more expensive while you were being responsible. That's not a spending problem. That's a math problem. And it gets worse before it gets better. But here's the part that most financial content completely misses. The housing crisis isn't actually the deepest problem. It's a symptom of something bigger. Imagine 2 people on a racetrack. Same age, same starting day. But person B begins 400 meters ahead because their parents owned property, passed on investments, or simply paid for college, so person B entered adult life with 0 debt and a small nest egg already growing. Person A can run harder, work longer hours, cut every expense, but they're still 400 meters behind on day 1. That gap has a name. Economists call it the wealth gap. But the real mechanism underneath it is simpler than that. Wealthy people don't primarily get rich from their salaries. They get rich from owning assets that grow while they sleep. A salary is what you trade your time for. Every hour you work, you earn. Every hour you stop, you don't. Assets are different. An index fund grows at 2 a.m. A rental property earns rent on a Sunday. A business generates revenue, whether the owner is working or not. And here's where the starting line problem really bites Gen Z. Previous generations could use a home, the most common middle-class asset, as their primary wealth-building vehicle. Buy early, let it appreciate, build equity over decades. That path still exists, but the entry cost has become almost unreachable for most young workers without family help. Which means Gen Z needs a different strategy. And the good news? One exists. We'll get to that. But first, there's a psychological trap that almost nobody is talking about. And it might be the most dangerous force working against young people today. Because here's where things get really interesting. Even if housing became affordable tomorrow, even if the entire market reset overnight, most Gen Z workers would still struggle to build wealth. And the reason has absolutely nothing to do with income. There's a psychological phenomenon that didn't meaningfully exist 30 years ago. It didn't exist because the technology that created it didn't exist. and it is quietly destroying the financial confidence of an entire generation. Here's what it is. Your brain is wired to measure your success not by what you have, but by comparing what you have to what the people around you have. Psychologists call this relative deprivation. And for most of human history, your comparison group was small. Your neighborhood, your workplace, maybe your extended family. Then the internet arrived, then social media, and suddenly your comparison group became unlimited. Every single day, you scroll past people your age who appeared to be living in penthouses, traveling to Santorini, driving cars that cost more than some people's annual salary. Some of it is real. A lot of it is performance. But your brain doesn't fully separate the two. It just registers. They have it. I don't. Something is wrong with me. And that feeling, that constant low-grade sense of being behind, creates a very specific and very damaging financial behavior loop. You feel anxious about money, so you either restrict yourself completely, which feels unsustainable, or you spend on small comforts to relieve the anxiety. That $6 coffee isn't irresponsibility. For a lot of people, it's a tiny moment of control in a situation that feels completely out of their hands. Then comes the guilt. Then the restrict again. Then the break again. Round and round. Now, layer on top of that something called lifestyle inflation. Here's how it works. Sarah gets a raise. Finally, she moves to a slightly better apartment, upgrades her phone, starts buying better groceries because she's earned it, right? Perfectly reasonable choices, individually. But collectively, her spending rose almost as fast as her income, so her savings rate barely moved. This isn't a character flaw. This is literally how human psychology works. We adapt to new normals almost instantly. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. That raise felt incredible for about 90 days. Then it just became the new baseline. And the finish line moved forward again. The dangerous part? Most people don't even notice it happening. But here's the mistake that ties all of this together. The biggest financial error most Gen Z workers make isn't spending too much on small things. It's believing genuinely. Believing that a bigger salary will eventually solve everything. It won't. And here's exactly why. Time is the most powerful financial force that exists. Not income, not investing skill, not finding the perfect stock. Time. Here's the math. And stay with this because this is the part that will actually change how you think. If you invest $300 a month starting at age 22, earning an average return of 8% per year, which is historically what broad market index funds have delivered over long periods by age 62, you'd have approximately $1 million. Not because you're a genius investor, not because you picked the right stock, but because time did most of the work. Now wait 5 years. Start at 27 instead of 22. Same $300 a month. Same 8% return. You'd have around $680,000 at 62. Those 5 years cost you $320,000, not because you spent more, but because compounding is like a snowball rolling downhill. The earlier it starts rolling, the bigger it gets. And a snowball that starts 5 years later never fully catches up, no matter how fast it rolls. This is why the starting line matters so much, and this is why the wealth gap compounds across generations, literally. The family that owns assets early passes time and money to the next generation. The family starting from zero has to build both from scratch. But here's what that also means. Every year you delay investing even small amounts is a year of compounding you can never reclaim. Not next year. Not with a bigger paycheck. Gone. which is exactly why the practical steps matter more than most people realize. So what does someone in Sarah's position actually do? Step 1. Stop measuring your progress against the internet. The people who look wealthy online are either genuinely lucky in ways you cannot see, or performing wealth they do not actually have. Neither version is a useful measuring stick for your financial life. Unfollow aggressively if you need to. Your brain is not designed for unlimited social comparison. Step 2. Focus obsessively on one number, your savings rate, not your latte budget. Your savings rate, the percentage of your income that moves into assets every month. Even 10% changes your trajectory over a decade. Automate it before you can spend it. Make it invisible. Step 3. Start investing before you feel ready. There is no ready. There is no perfect moment. Open a simple investment account. Put money into a broad market index fund. Even $50 a month is not nothing, it's the habit forming, and habits scale with income. Step 4. Reframe what you're actually building. Don't think about retirement. That word is too distant for your brain to care about. Think about buying back your future choices. Every dollar you invest today is a fraction of future freedom, a future where you have options that most people never get. Step 5. Learn to separate lifestyle from wealth building deliberately. Lifestyle is everything that makes today feel better. Wealth building is everything that gives future you more options. Both matter. But most people spend 95% on lifestyle and almost nothing on assets. The people quietly building wealth slowly flip that ratio over time, not overnight, but consistently. 20 years from now, two groups of people will look back at this moment in their financial lives. One group will say, "I wish I had started earlier. I wish I had understood sooner. I wish I hadn't waited for things to feel more certain." The other group will be quietly glad they didn't wait. The difference between those two futures isn't income. It isn't luck. It isn't whether housing was affordable or the market was perfect. It's whether they understood, early enough, that wealth doesn't come from earning more. It comes from owning things that grow. Gen Z is not doomed, but Gen Z is playing a harder version of the game. The starting line is less fair. The math is genuinely more difficult. And the psychological traps are more powerful than any generation has faced before. But the rules of compounding haven't changed. Time still works the same way it always has. The biggest financial mistake isn't starting small. It's waiting for the perfect moment to start. Because while you're waiting, time keeps moving. And time is the one asset nobody can ever buy back.